We've been working on a sandal design right now, so I think we've got the right name identified for it. Mostly I'm wearing the sneakers of creativity. If you look at the footwear industry, it's ugly. As a young designer, designing for some big brands and going to a shoe factory and having a headache within minutes because of the toxic glues that are in there, seeing all the waste that comes out of the back of a factory, not to mention all the crazy shipping of shoe boxes. It's pretty stunning how ugly this industry really is. I know there's a lot of people making efforts, and that's fantastic, but we got a ways to go. For one, it's toluene and benzene. These are the primary adhesives used in footwear. It's pretty much women of childbearing age that are putting these shoes together, and you can see toothbrushes of glue. Usually there's about 3 gluing operations in between a bunch of different ovens. Pretty ugly business and pretty toxic. And we know that it's leading to a lot of birth defects globally. In addition, we have all the issues of big labor right now with giant centralized factories. We know that the shipping of these largely unpopulated boxes has a huge carbon footprint. In the United States, 96% of all the footwear is made at least 10,000 miles away. And at the end of the life of the shoe, what do we have? We have enough shoes just in America to circle the globe 4 times. That's what we're throwing away every year. It's an unbelievable problem, and actually reclaiming this is pretty hard because you really do, in the words of William McDonough, you have an undefined hybrid. It's a monstrous hybrid of a bunch of different materials that don't really belong together and can't really do much together. So what do we do? Well, there's a few different things we could do. Like, let's try to upcycle them, right? And there are potentials for being able to upcycle. For the most part, we're seeing downcycling, and even the downcycling efforts in the footwear industry have largely now disappeared. But if you really do find a way to do that, it's going to add cost. You could say we're going to use some safer adhesives. We're going to try to really clean that up and do better. It's going to add cost. We can try this made-on-demand thing. Maybe we're not going to store so much inventory. Maybe there's a way we can get more efficient with all that stuff. But truth of the matter is that's adding cost as well. And localized manufacturing is something right now we're hearing a lot about, sort of like the rebirth of manufacturing in the United States. If you look at the real numbers, it's not really there yet. It's still on the decline more than the incline. But that model is adding cost. So if you look at all the different issues that are there and you start trying to group all the different things that you could try to do to be more sustainable, it's a disparate amount of things. It was great in one of the workshops yesterday to look at these 20 models for how you could be sustainable. Well, each of those, when they exist as independent models of sustainability and innovation, can be a little bit problematic, and it's a little bit confusing, right? Like, which one do you pick? What type of sustainability is it more important to be recyclable? Is it more important to eliminate toxins? What do you do? So we looked at it a different way, saying, what if all those are really just symptoms? Let's say you've got the sniffles and a cough. Maybe it's the same disease. Maybe there's one kind of integrated thing that we can look at. So what if we take all the symptoms and look at addressing them as a complete whole? So at the end, I think what we found was that this becomes the engine for disruptive innovation. And so Life Shoes is our new design venture really at addressing that as a complete whole. So I'm inspired by this other bald designer, Buckminster Fuller, and he spoke about the design science revolution. And for that, it was really about what's the investigation, what you're doing, but with excitement. But I think in addition to that, and one of the reasons I'm here is to really talk about the socialization aspect of it as well. That really to be innovative, you have to not be afraid to be in this room, which could be intimidating for a humble guy like me and seeing all the amazing people that are here. But I think it's important in order to take a step forward. So one of the things that I really was inspired by was the Shinto architecture in Japan. These structures are designed for disassembly. So if the lake gets too high, they're actually able to be disassembled and moved back up the mountain. Well, they do that by not using any glue, any screws, any nails. It's really just a really exciting set of joinery that goes together to make this whole thing happen. So that led us to the way we decided to make shoes. What if shoes had no glue? Forget about safe glue. Let's say glue might be the problem. So how could you make shoes so that there's actually no adhesive whatsoever? And so we have a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle about how these shoes go together, and that's the heart of our patent. It's amazing. No one had really looked at it that way. And additionally, when I don't use glue and I don't have all these big ovens and all that stuff, I can actually put these things together in about 90 seconds. So all of a sudden, that opens up a whole lot of other possibilities of what we could be doing. And if I start talking about what these materials are coming from in a modular shoe concept, it opens up all kinds of capabilities. I mean, the cork that's thrown away in Portugal or in Whole Foods right now, it's unbelievable how much is just reground, and there's really no market for it. And people are looking for a market for it. We can use all natural fibers. We don't have to use all the polyesters and synthetics and make these monstrous hybrids of polyester and cotton put together and all that are possible to use in the next use. There is some possibility of using stuff that is in the reutilization stream. So if we can use some milk jugs, we can make a performance plate that really creates a great performance part for what you're doing as you walk. Landfills are a cop-out, right? I mean, they really are. I mean, it's just meaning that you were not creative enough to think about what to do with your product after its useful life. So what we looked at is this idea about life cycling, that we take our shoes back. When you're done wearing your shoes, you bring them back, you get a 15% discount. And we have this model we call the sustainable figure eight. We have all these components that get made from raw materials. Those components are assembled on demand. We make your shoe based on exactly the kind of shoe you want, which opens up all kinds of possibilities in the retail world. And after that, when you bring them back, we can disassemble them in that same place. So as a result, we don't really need a shoe factory anymore. We're actually doing this in the retail shop. And we go around and around. And now we think that 15% discount probably is not enough to motivate most people. So we have a little trick. And the trick is to put a digital heel lock in there. If we can monitor the way you walk. Now forget, like in the store, sometimes you might walk 10 steps and someone's watching you and you're like walking perfectly, you're the model, biomorphic person. But maybe actually after that, after you leave the store, you're having buyer's remorse or you're excited about something, you might actually walk differently. Well, if I can monitor the way you walk for the life of the shoes and you bring them back, I can tell you how you really walk. And if I can tell you how you really walk, then I can actually then start modifying your shoes. So when you bring your shoes back for upcycling, and each of these components are going back to make another pair of shoes, I can actually modify your next pair so they're even better. Whether it's for high heel strike, or for foot issues, or for whatever it is that you're having. And as a result, we think what we're doing is we're closing the loop on the customer. It's not about the closed loop of the materials, the closed loop of the customer. That's where the business is. That's where the sustainability is. So, right, we have now a little model, a little mock-up. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're in the heart of the textile, or the ex-textile land of America. And in our small downtown shop, we have a little model. And in North Carolina, we also have something called Krispy Kreme. Right, so we have these, and my 5-year-old wants to be up against the glass watching donuts get made. I was just telling the story yesterday, and it's just so funny because he actually doesn't like donuts. But he loves watching donuts get made, and like, man, that one that doesn't get flipped over or gets double glazed the wrong way or something like that is so fun. Well, that's because making is cultural. We love to watch things get made. If someone fixed their pickup truck on our street, 3 people gather around and go, "What you doing?" Right? We all want to see things get made. So if in your retail concept where I'm actually making shoes instead of like checking Facebook and then marching towards you saying, "Can I help you?" But I'm actually making something, maybe you'll come walking and say, "What are you doing?" So we've been trying that out and trying to understand if that can work. And so with our own 3D printer right there in the window, we're making shoe parts. And a good chunk of our parts right now are made with 3D printing. And we can do that with a $2,000 machine. It's unbelievable. Instead of $250,000 to make a pair of footwear, now I actually just need $2,000 and just some creativity. Now, if I watch the 3D printer anymore, it's like watching paint dry. I can't stand it. But that's not what, for people for the first time seeing it, is very different. So we put our products in the window as we're making them, and it's just incredible. Whether we have a nighttime event in the Arts District of Raleigh where people can just come around, it's unbelievable how much attention, whether it's young or old, and there's no joy like watching this out of your desk, right? Just seeing a bunch of kids just can't believe there's something happening right there. you would pay for that to happen in a retail store, right? So in addition to being able to make those parts, we also then can capture a digital profile. All our shoes are QR coded, so we can completely capture what it is, who the designer was, the designers, and this is all through partnering with creative people that can then get reimbursed for the shoe designs that they do. And as a result, we can also then tag that to who you are and how you fit. So from that, we then sort of started seeing an explosion from a lot of the creative community around us. So graffiti artists to silk screeners, to all of a sudden, once they realize that we're digitally printing our textiles and our shoes and they can do anything they want, wow, this thing exploded for us, right? And maybe one of these designers will have followings, and these people then create their community, and maybe they're actually now generating income from that. And maybe the Raleigh designers are sold in Raleigh, maybe the San Francisco designers are sold there, maybe the London shop represents the local town here. Imagine that. Imagine your local community being represented in the products that you wear. So we've had a lot of great fun in doing that, and it's just been able to explode for us. I'm really excited that now we're just getting into the women's shoes, and so we're having a lot of fun with that, and it's just amazing the types of designs that are coming in for us right now. So I thought the origami was the most appropriate to start off with. We're also allowing people to upload their own designs, so you can put your dogs on your dogs. So what we're doing right now, and to further socialize what we're doing, is actually doing beta programs with users. So we're going to run another set of beta programs right now and make sure we have all the sizing right. We're not doing just lengths, we're also doing widths. And we know that some people's lefts and rights are different. In fact, most of us lefts and rights are different. What shoe company would be insane enough to offer widths and different lefts and rights? But for the model that we have, there's no difference. There really isn't. So one of the things to really think about is that really in the economics of how this thing works, the color ends up being about 80% of your risk, right? If that fuchsia works, or if this print or that print, and that becomes a real problem for shoe retailers. So what they tend to do is just really limit the choice, because otherwise they're taking too much of a risk. But actually most of the cost is below that fashiony look on the upper. And so as a result, once you glue these shoes together, you've just sentenced the whole thing to a fashion risk. But if I can keep the whole thing apart, it ends up being much different economics completely. So it's only when I assemble them that they actually have some kind of a risk, and it's the glue that's like sentencing them to markdowns at the end of every season. And that can take about 20 points off any retail store. So by doing that, what we realized that we're down to like maybe 1/3 the cost for inventory. And when we actually look at not having embedded labor in the product, that we're actually using our sales force to help build these shoes, we also see another huge advantage in margin. It's a very profitable model, frankly. So in the end, when we put these things together and we're willing to address it, about the job creation, sustainability, about customer service, we start really trying to put that together, customization, and join that all together. It really reminds me that it's really no different than the old days, right? The cobbler down the street. And when I really think about it, there's a picture of me as an adolescent. And, I had to conquer this mountain in Seattle with my brother. And, we're gawky adolescents, right? So we have the muscles, we're able to conquer, we're able to get there. And what are we going to do? We're just going to goof off. I don't know why really what we're doing, but it's like there's that whole thing about conquering. And here I am in the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. Wow, what did we conquer here, right? It's amazing what we did. But maybe it's a little bit like being an adolescent. We have big muscles, we have big brains, we have all kinds of things, but are we embarrassed by what we're doing? Do we know better than to do the things that we're doing right now? So what we're trying to do now is trying to reintegrate. So if you can imagine a digital cobbler, right, and digital thinking, and how can we reintegrate the newest technologies with sort of the oldest ways of doing things. We built cities because manufacturing was in them, because the trades were in them. They need to come back to really make cities vital. And so at the end, when you actually put all this together, what I realize it's just people plan a profit. I mean, you put all those things together, this is actually nothing new at all. What we're just trying to do is address them as a singular purpose. So that's our mission, and I will just encourage all of you in all the different businesses that you're in, that all those challenges need to be embraced.